The silence wasn't peaceful. It was the suffocating silence of abandonment, heavy and absolute, broken only by the rasp of his own breathing and the distant hum of a world that had discarded him. He lay where he'd been dumped, a crumpled heap of matted fur and jutting bones on the cracked asphalt of a deserted service road, miles from anywhere that resembled kindness. The dust, kicked up by the departing tires hours ago, had settled, coating his already filthy coat like a shroud. His name, if he ever truly had one that mattered, was lost to the wind. Here he was just debris. He was a large dog, potentially a shepherd mix or something similar, but starvation had whittled him down to a skeletal frame. His fur, thick and once likely handsome, was a tangled, painful mess, pulling at his skin, hiding sores and legions of parasites. One leg was twisted at an unnatural angle, possibly broken or severely sprained from the force of being thrown from the vehicle, or perhaps an older injury left untreated. Pain was a constant, low thrum beneath the gnawing ache of hunger and the desperate, consuming thirst. He didn't move for a long time. Shock, pain, and a profound, soul-deep confusion held him captive. The scents on the air were alien: dry brush, hot tar, the faint metallic temps of decay from unseen refuse nearby. No familiar smells of home, no scent of the humans who had been his entire world until that final, terrifying car ride. Why? The question echoed in the instinctual part of his brain, the part that understood loyalty and pack, but couldn't comprehend betrayal on this scale. He had been left here, left to die. The sun beat down relentlessly, baking the asphalt, reflecting heat that shimmered in the air. Thirst became an agony, scraping his throat raw, making his tongue feel thick and useless. Survival instinct, buried deep beneath the layers of misery, finally flickered. Water. He needed water. Dragging his injured leg, which sent jolts of fire up his side with every movement, he pushed himself upright. The world tilted precariously. He swayed, his weakened muscles screaming in protest. Every step was a monumental effort. He scanned the desolate landscape, parched earth, skeletal trees, the endless, indifferent ribbon of road stretching into the heat haze. There was nothing. He began to walk, driven by a primal urge that defied the despair threatening to consume him. He limped along the edge of the road, sniffing the air, searching for any sign of moisture, any hint of life. Hours crawled by. The sun climbed higher, reached its zenith, and began its slow descent, painting the sky in brutal oranges and reds that offered no comfort. His paws were raw, scraped bloody by the rough surface. The pain in his leg intensified, a relentless throbbing. Hunger gnawed with vicious teeth, making him lightheaded. He stumbled frequently, collapsing onto the hot ground, only to haul himself back up again, propelled by a force he didn't understand. Was it hope, or just the stubborn refusal of life to relinquish its hold? He found a puddle, or rather, the muddy, stagnant remains of one in a deep tire track, likely left from a recent rain shower days ago. It was thick, foul-smelling, teeming with insects. He didn't hesitate. He plunged his muzzle in, lapping desperately at the murky liquid, ignoring the filth. It wasn't enough, barely enough, to wet his tongue, but it was something, a tiny victory in a losing war. Night fell, bringing a deceptive coolness, but also new fears. The darkness wasn't empty. Strange rustlings in the dry brush, the distant howl of a coyote, the unsettling feeling of unseen eyes watching him. He found shallow shelter beneath a thorny bush, curling himself into the tightest possible ball, trying to conserve warmth and disappear. Sleep offered little respite, haunted by fleeting images of a warm bed, a full bowl, a gentle hand. Memories that now felt like cruel illusions. He shivered, less from cold and more from a bone-deep loneliness. Days bled into an indistinguishable cycle of torment. Limp, search, rest. Limp, search, rest. The gnawing hunger became a permanent fixture. He ate things he never would have considered before. Dry, brittle insects, tough roots he dug up with his front paws. The dubious remnants of something unidentifiable found near a pile of illegally dumped trash. Each mouthful was a gamble, potentially poisonous, but starvation offered a more certain death. His body continued its relentless betrayal. The infection in his injured leg began to smell, a sickly sweet odor that clung to him. He grew weaker, the periods of rest longer, the distances covered shorter. His magnificent spirit, the core of his being, was being eroded by sheer physical depletion. He was becoming a ghost, a shadow, drifting through a wasteland. One afternoon, seeking refuge from the relentless sun under the meager shade of a rock outcropping, he found a discarded plastic bottle. It held perhaps an inch of stale, sun-warmed water. He nudged it, knocked it over, lapped frantically at the small spill before it vanished into the thirsty earth. As he licked the last drop, a different scent hit his nostrils, faint but distinct. Food, real food. Hope, that dangerous, flickering ember, flared weakly. He followed the scent, his pace quickening slightly despite the agony in his leg. It led him towards a cluster of rocks near what looked like an old, abandoned quarry site. And there, tucked away, he saw it, a half-eaten sandwich in a discarded paper bag, likely left by workers or trespassers days ago. He approached cautiously, scanning for danger. Nothing. He devoured the sandwich in seconds. Stale bread, limp lettuce, a smear of something vaguely meaty. It was a feast. It was fuel. It was a sign, perhaps, that the universe hadn't entirely forgotten him. Buoyed by this small bounty, he pressed on. The terrain grew rougher near the quarry, littered with loose stones and debris. He slipped, his injured leg giving way completely. He tumbled down a short, steep embankment, landing hard against a pile of discarded metal. A sharp, searing pain ripped through his side. He tried to stand, but this time the strength wasn't there. The fall had taken the last of his reserves. He lay there, panting, dust filling his nostrils. The sky wheeled above him. This was it, he thought, not with fear anymore, but with a profound, exhausted resignation. He had fought. He had endured thirst, hunger, pain, and the crushing weight of solitude. But the fight was over. He closed his eyes, the image of the discarded sandwich, his last small victory, fading from his mind. He let the darkness begin to claim him. That's how Sarah found him. Sarah was a geologist, occasionally surveying the disused quarry for mineral traces. She wasn't expecting to find life, least of all like this. She saw the crumpled form against the scrap metal, initially thinking it was just another piece of trash. Then she saw the shallow rise and fall of his ribs. She approached slowly, cautiously, her heart clenching at the sight. The horrific state of him, the emaciation, the matted fur, the obviously injured leg, the raw sores visible beneath the grime. But it was his eyes, when they flickered open as she drew near, that stopped her breath. They were clouded with pain, dim with exhaustion, but held within their depths wasn't defeat. It was a spark, a stubborn, resilient spark that refused to be extinguished, even now, at the very edge of death. It was the look of a warrior who had battled impossible odds, and was only now succumbing because the body could no longer obey the spirit's command. "Oh, you poor, poor thing," she whispered, her voice thick with emotion. It's okay, I'm here now." He flinched at her voice, a low growl rumbling deep in his chest, a final, instinctual warning from a creature who had learned that humans meant pain, meant abandonment. Sarah stopped, knelt down a safe distance away. She didn't try to touch him, she just spoke, softly, calmly. "Easy now, boy, easy. I'm not going to hurt you. I want to help." She sat there for several minutes, letting him get used to her presence. Her calm energy, a stark contrast to the frantic fear he must have known. Slowly, carefully, she retrieved a water bottle and a protein bar from her backpack. She poured some water into her cupped hand, extending it slowly towards him. He watched her, wary, but the sight and smell of water was too powerful a lure. With immense effort, he lifted his head slightly and lapped weakly at her offering. He drank, paused, then drank again. Sarah refilled her hand multiple times. Then she broke off a tiny piece of the protein bar, placing it gently near his muzzle. He sniffed it, hesitated, then took it with surprising gentleness. Getting him out of there was a challenge. He was too weak to walk, too injured and frightened to be easily carried. Sarah used her satellite phone. Reception was patchy, but she managed to get a call through to Animal Rescue, describing the location and the dire situation. The wait felt agonizingly long. Sarah stayed with the dog, speaking softly, offering sips of water, shielding him from the worst of the sun with her own body. She tentatively reached out and stroked his head just once. He stiffened, but didn't pull away. He closed his eyes again, perhaps finally allowing himself a sliver of trust. When the rescue vehicle arrived, the experienced handlers worked with quiet efficiency, using a blanket as a makeshift stretcher. The dog, they started calling him Ronan, a name that felt strong, fitting, remained terrifyingly still, conserving every ounce of energy. The journey to the emergency veterinary clinic was a blur of hushed voices and the hum of the engine. At the clinic, the battle shifted from the harshness of the wild to the sterile environment of medicine. Ronan was severely dehydrated, malnourished, anemic, riddled with parasites, suffering from exposure, a badly infected leg fracture, and multiple lacerations. His prognosis was guarded at best. Many dogs in his condition didn't make it. The trauma was simply too profound. But Ronan wasn't just any dog. He was the dog who had refused to die in the dust. He had faced starvation and found scraps. He had battled thirst and found drops. He had endured agony and kept moving. That warrior spirit, the spark Sarah had seen in his eyes, was still there, burning beneath the battered surface. He endured the 4 fluids, the antibiotics, the wound cleanings, the examinations, with a stoic patience that amazed the veterinary staff. He rarely complained, accepting the treatments with a quiet endurance that spoke volumes. When they had to surgically repair his fractured leg, pinning it back together, the recovery was slow and arduous, requiring careful pain management and physical therapy. Sarah visited him every day. She would sit by his kennel, sometimes reading aloud, sometimes just talking quietly, offering gentle touches when he seemed receptive. She brought him soft blankets and special, high-calorie food prescribed by the vet, hand-feeding him when he was too weak to eat on his own. She became his anchor, the first consistent source of kindness he had known in a long, long time. Slowly, painstakingly, Ronan began to heal. The transformation was staggering. The fur, carefully shaved to treat skin infections, began to grow back, thick and a rich sable color. Weight gradually returned, covering the skeletal frame, revealing the powerful build beneath. The haunted look in his eyes began to recede, replaced by cautious curiosity, then growing trust, and eventually flickers of unmistakable affection directed towards Sarah and the clinic staff, who showed him kindness. His leg healed remarkably well, a testament to both the surgeon's skill and Ronan's own resilience. He started putting weight on it, tentatively at first, then with growing confidence during his therapy sessions. The first time he wagged his tail, a slow, hesitant thump against the kennel floor when Sarah arrived. The entire clinic staff seemed to celebrate. Ronan's physical scars would always remain, the slight limp, the patchwork of healed skin beneath his fur, and the emotional scars, the deep memory of betrayal and abandonment, would likely never fade completely. He remained wary of sudden movements, loud noises, and strangers, especially men. But he was alive. More than alive, he was thriving. He had faced the absolute worst of humanity and the indifference of nature, and he had not broken. He had fought his way back from the brink, fueled by an incredible will to live. When the time came for him to leave the clinic, there was no question of where he would go. Sarah, who had found him as a broken pile of refuse, saw him now as the warrior he was. She had witnessed his incredible fight, felt the strength of his spirit, and fallen irrevocably in love with his resilient heart. Ronan went home with Sarah, to a soft bed, regular meals, clean water, and endless patience. He learned about squeaky toys, gentle walks in green parks, and the unparalleled joy of resting his head in his human's lap, knowing he was safe, cherished, and finally, truly home. He was living proof that even when abandoned to die, the spirit can endure. He was Ronan, the warrior, who fought for his life against impossible odds and won, not just survival, but the chance to love and be loved again. His journey was a harrowing testament to the depths of cruelty, but an even more powerful testament to the incredible, indomitable strength of the will to live.